And I don't really need to go through all the regular startup of the session since everyone here has always been here. And so I don't need to go through the community agreements, but I will copy it to the chat
I'm doing
just
the work. I'm doing everything.
for posterity's
Sorry.
sake.
Hey, Scatterbrain, you are using way too many tools. You can get it all done with ClickUp. It houses
Okay. Something's coming through there. All right. Good. So welcome. Doreen and Irene will be facilitating this session, and thank you so much for being here this morning. And we might as well just jump in, Irene, because everyone here we're all regulars for now. So I'll pass over the baton to you, and actually, Doreen already has co-host as well. We're good. All set to go. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be taking you through this session and with Doreen. So Doreen is going to start us off, and we just enjoy the session, really. Let's see what happens in the session. Doreen, over to you.
Thanks so much, Irene, and thanks, Ken. And thanks, David and Mia, for coming in. David had made us laugh a lot just before you came in, Mia. So our mood's already too high for the session. We hope we'll be able to keep it up for what he has already started for us with. So today we would just want to explore inclusive culture in learning environments and see how that looks like in the different places where we learn. It could be the institutions, it could also be the workplaces, because there are moments of learning in the workplaces, or it could just be in life, because life also has a way of teaching us a number of things as we move on in life. So we are going to be looking at that, and we are going to use a method, a consensus method by ICA. We'll just delve deeper into it as we go by. But before we get there, I would love to pose a question for us so that we can explore a little more, a little deeper, and ask us to share either a value or an experience or a practice that you had when growing up that still affects how we interact with learning spaces today. Any value or something that happened to us or something that has been done in the learning spaces where we have been that still affects how we interact with learning today. We could write this on chat or we could speak it out. And because we are very few, I would encourage us to pick the mic.
I think I stopped sharing so that we can see each other and add this to the chat.
Fantastic.
Add the prompt, yeah.
Yes, have it on
add
the chat.
Prompt, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. So do we have any experiences or values that we would want to share and that we are comfortable sharing?
I'll start.
Yeah, okay, go,
Oh, sorry. Is it okay?
We were thinking at the same time.
Oh, okay.
No, it's okay.
I think one thing that has had lasting impact from my childhood is I went to a Quaker school. Quakers are a specific kind of sect where they really embrace quiet reflection, and also, worship is basically like silence with a reflective stance, So in school, once a week, we went to a Quaker meeting house, which was this historic building for America, America being a young country, relatively speaking. We would go to this historic, like, Quaker meeting house, which was on the property of our school. And it's a very Spartan place. And we would just sit, and as a child, we would think it was really boring. you know, and we would have to sit there for like 30 minutes in silence and just think about our week. The walk to the Quaker Meeting House was through the woods, and that was very beautiful. So nature, I think, is also another reference point that's really important to me now. But I think it's that practice, like active practicing of reflection that I've threaded through my life, even without being aware of it. So that's what I'd like.
Yes, thanks so much, Mia, for sharing that. That quiet time has become part of your practice, coming from what you had an experience when you're growing up. Yeah, Irene, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, we were brought up to shut up. We were we were brought up to sit. We were brought up to just follow instructions or rules and laws and without thinking. And I actually kind of became a rebel, kind of. So I'm sure you also notice a bit of that. I like disrupting the normal. I learned how to do that at a very young age, although it got me really beaten up by teachers and my parents also, especially my father. But I decided that what we were learning was too, so I wanted something more. I wanted something more. So I kept on asking more, but I got beaten instead. So now that I found, as I grew older, I found my voice. So yeah, and then I bring that a lot, but I also mute a few things here and there so that I'm not too disruptive. So that's something that I've, that affects how I interact in spaces. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Irene. How we were treated and how we were acknowledged and appreciated, or otherwise, or even reprimanded, tends to affect how we show up later on in the spaces where we are either learning or even sharing the learning ourselves. Oh, thanks so much for sharing that with us. Any other person who would want to tell us something? We are very few. We can have
Were you
intimate
going to add something,
discussions
David?
with your permission.
For me, it was an active listening workshop that I went to as a part of it was an online learning conference. And it was real eye-opening, right? Because, well, or ear-opening might be a better metaphor, because I'm a career educator and we do lots of talking. And we are typically very comfortable talking, right? It kind of is our safe space, or uh, um, or brings us energy, and in the active listening workshop changed my whole attitude about, and this is going to sound crazy, but a lot of times when we listen, we're anticipating what we're going to say next, and don't really pay attention to what the person is saying. And that workshop taught us to practice really listening, to make sure that we are listening for understanding, not just listening to be polite, right? And so I've tried to do that more and more. The challenge comes when you're teaching and there's silence. Most of us are not comfortable. We should be, but we're just not comfortable when somebody isn't talking. You know, it's like we expect somebody to be talking 24 every minute of the day, me or somebody else, right? And so pauses and silences are wonderful. Now the trade-off is it looks like you're not participating when you don't talk. You know, when you participate, when you talk, when you're participating in one of the MYFest conferences or whatever, it's pretty obvious that you are, you know, when you talk, it's pretty obvious you're participating. But listening, which should be just as important and just as valuable, I don't think it gets the attention or the credit So people will say, well, you need to participate more. And I look at them like, well, I
Huh?
am. I just want to listen more and absorb, not simply, hear words thrown at me, but absorb and think about what other people are saying.
Nice. I was listening seems to be the topic. Actually, I was going to say, and one thing I learned from my grade 3 teacher, Mrs. Botello. I was at a Catholic school in Canada at the time, which later is conflicting because I also have Cree heritage, and there's that whole issue with the Catholic schools in Canada, but that's another story for another day. But Mrs. Patel taught me to listen first and not be the first to speak. Because when I was earlier in my primary school career, I was tended to be the first to speak. But I learned to listen, get a feeling for the room, which has helped me as an educator and as a speaker. I really like to know what the room's feeling is like before I speak. Or my dad always saying, my Navy dad saying, you have two ears and one mouth. You should be listening at least as twice as much as you're speaking. But I think when we went through pandemic and also my online teaching, I learned to help my students realize, as David said, you don't have to speak to participate. And that's why we have these affordances of the side chat to everybody, where a lot of my students that are shy to speak can participate very actively through the chat in a live session or in the asynchronous modes that we set up for support, like a Discord for MYFest. It allows them to participate in their own way or even say a direct message to me during class because they don't want to put it out in front of everybody. They can send me a direct message during a Zoom session. That isn't so easy in the classroom. They can't really send me a private message while I'm in the classroom. But I like that theme of listening, and I think we all jived on that. That was nice.
Oh, well, thanks so much, David and Ken, for sharing that, and especially the emphasis on the quietness and the ability to just soak in without necessarily always giving a response. I wonder how that gets balanced in a learning space, especially when you're supposed to give feedback or ask the level of participation in terms of how many marks have they scored in an academic space.
Mm-hmm.
That's a space to just think how then does that balance. But yes, it's a very important space, especially when you say you advise. I agree with you. Understanding what the other person is saying is much more better than just giving responses based at what your thoughts are without even understanding what they're saying. Oh, right. Thank you so much. Irene, take us to the next slide. Is it Ken? Yeah, Ken, you could share with us the next slide.
No, I can do that. Don't worry. As I looked for the slide, I was thinking about Catholic school. That's a story for another
Yes,
day.
I injected another sidetrack.
Yes, you made me very curious, but we'll talk about that another day. Back to you, Doreen.
Yeah, I hope it will come over in our consequent conversations. I hope it will show up how it has shaped how we behave and how we interact with learning, especially the religious kind of learning institutions that some of us went through and how that has affected us to date. It would be an interesting conversation to hear. So we will be using the consensus method, like I mentioned earlier, to just go through these conversations on inclusive culture in learning environments. And we are going to be looking at it at 4 levels, where we will be looking at it at the objective, reflective, interpretive, and decisional levels, where the objective level is kind of unpacking what the facts are around a situation. What is it that we see, we hear, we know about that? The reflective level is what we feel, the emotions. I'm sure as we spoke about, perhaps even as David shared the experience he had in that listening workshop, it evokes some particular emotions around that. Then the interpretive, how do we interpret this? And what options do we have? And at the decisional level, what decisions do we make out of that? We could share the link on the chat for deeper interaction with the method, but you're just going to use it to unpack our conversation going forward. So now we're going to get into just asking ourselves another question beyond the one that we've just asked. So at our work or institutions, which are some of these values that have been reflected in how learning is structured? For example, in terms of the hierarchy, in terms of the grades, the kind of language that is used, time that is given for a particular learning season to happen, even the semesters, the years and everything, and participation. So I would ask we feel free to either take the chat, type in the chat, or use the mic to have this conversation and see how does this get reflected in the various learning places.
I could start with being educated and still going through the British education system that has never changed up to now, 6 years later in the Kenyan in the Kenyan education system. And the learning, it's just now that they have started saying, oh, we need curriculum-based learning, we need, we need to base it on, what was the other one? The CBC, not the curriculum, but the, where you do what you see, you do, and that kind of thing. And it affects a lot of things because then it's quite a challenge for people to have, like, when you introduce design thinking, it takes a while for people to get into it because that is kind of outside what they have learned to do, and then also, I was sharing earlier with Doreen how sometimes in sessions it's so hard to get people to speak because they come with their hierarchy, especially from higher institutions of learning where people are called professors and doctors. So people are so intimidated to speak in such situations because then we have professor, we have doctor. So how do I speak when my senior is here? So those are the things that I've, that I've reflected in the structuring and a lot of things that we do that I've come across myself. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Irene, for sharing that. And indeed, some of the structures that were used in our schooling system still happen to date, and nothing has changed, even though many other things besides education have changed. So that's an interesting space to pick. Ken is also putting across the word grading. Quote unquote is very loaded.
Grading is for cattle.
Yes.
Not for students, not for humans. It's interesting how we use that word grading.
Yes, but it's being used. Would you want to unpack it further for us, kindly?
I mean, so many other people have talked about this before, and I've done ungrading and followed the work of others, and in doing that in my classroom, and the whole focus on grades is such a sticky wicket. And I think that's related to this concept of active listening that David brought up. I struggle so much with my students when we're doing project presentations, whether it's online or in person. And I plead with my students, let go of the focus of, oh, my turn's next, and I got to worry about what we're going to do. And oh, they presented that. We got to edit our slides and add that. Like, instead, just enjoy the moment and learn from the presentation of your colleagues that are going before you or after you, and not focus so much on this power dynamic of I'm going to be graded on our presentation that's coming up in 10 minutes from now. And it's really, really hard to get the students to, I think, related to this slide of power dynamics, trust that I want to resist and relinquish that power behavior and just help them learn, as opposed to I'm grading them on everything. And so it's a lot to do with that. It's hard to unpack, I think.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ken. And indeed, that has, the marks and the grades have been used to make decisions about what happens in life and what kind of work people end up getting. So maybe that could be one of the reasons they're so curious and very concerned about what grade are you going to give us. So because of the culture that has always encouraged performance and vis-a-vis what someone actually gets to understand and they're able to implement. Right. There's also something that you mentioned. The power dynamics you've also mentioned about, and I'm grateful. Oh, fantastic. So those are some of the facts and experiences that we have gone through as we have interacted with learning and how culture shows up. And I'm glad that we are picking some of them. And there are so many, we can keep on mentioning them as time goes by, but because of the interest of time, let's keep it at that. And because we've just mentioned what we observe, like the previous experience Ken has just shared with us, to the point of our students become, how would I call it? Is it, I'm lacking the best word, but they're very conscious of what marks they are going to get. So I would want to ask another question. How do you feel when values and societal norms dominate a learning environment that you're part of? How do you feel? What does that make you feel? As an educator, as a trainer, what does that make you feel when those values of the society, the practices and the behaviors the society has always promoted or has done, dominate that learning environment that you're part of? I'll ask if you're able to unmute, pick the mic, or write in the chat.
I think I think all my MYFest friends know that I teach creativity courses for SUNY Buffalo State. And the hardest value that we try to break our students of is, and I'll piggyback off Kim was talking about, whether you call it grading or whether you call it assessing or whether you call it evaluating, that construct tries to put a numerical value in many cases, especially with the grade, right? A numerical value on what humans create, and it's a struggle because we are naturally judgmental. We evaluate everything, right? We evaluate our environment, we evaluate our friends, we evaluate our courses, and so it's hard to get people out of the framework of believing they need to evaluate everything, and that's especially an important concept in creativity, because when you are generating ideas, you have to defer judgment. You cannot create and judge at the same time. You're going to stop it. And right, we've all been, I think, in meetings or classes or sessions where people were throwing out ideas, and as soon as somebody else cuts down the idea, right, that costs too much money. We've done that before. We don't have time to do that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The person suggesting the idea then shuts down. We're social creatures, right? We don't want to be embarrassed. And so if you want to kill ideation, which is a fundamental skill, right, for creativity, judge at the same time, because that's what'll happen. But it's so hard because we're so used to doing it. And Doreen, as you said, our institutions, that's what they practice, right? It's all about evaluating, putting numbers or letter grades or whatever a grading system is, evaluating everything. And so it's very hard. It's the hardest of the creative thinking skills that we try to break our students from using. But creativity demands it. You're going to evaluate later. We're not saying evaluation doesn't have a place, but when you are discussing ideas, you can't. You cannot mix. First, different parts of the brain are involved. We know that now that from neuroscience research, right, that different parts of our brain are involved when we're being creative versus when we're judging. So, but like back to your point, Doreen, about what societal or organizational constructs. It's the judgment, the evaluation, or the assessment. That whole umbrella that I find so onerous.
That's a very interesting point that you're sharing, David. We are telling people, we are just labeling them very quickly and telling them this is not what we mean. We don't mean that you're a failure. We mean that you have attempted. You need to reattempt perhaps the exam again or an activity again. But already it has meant something for that person. So I hear you. How to balance that and defer the judgment, as you say, is something to think through. I like what Ken is saying, that it brings up a thought that he had earlier of when the teacher commends, it can have the effect of throwing away a blanket on conversation.
A wet blanket. I don't know if you have that phrasing there. It's where you throw a wet blanket on the conversation and then the conversation ends because the teacher spoke and now my comments are invalid.
Oh.
And it's hard for us to do, related to what David was saying, where we like to talk so much and sometimes we got to stop and let the conversations happen with the students, whether it's online, asynchronous, or live. If we put a comment in the discussion or the chat board or something, it's like you just killed the conversation because you spoke. It's hard.
Indeed, and that's why Irene mentioned about the power. You also mentioned about the power dynamics and Irene, the hierarchies. The moment the person who is felt like they have is senior, when they make a comment, then the conversation is done.
Yeah.
There is no more.
Even in office environments, I think, as well.
Yes, indeed, sure.
The boss has a great idea, and it's the one that you mentioned 3 weeks ago, but now it's the boss's idea, so everybody's listening.
Oh yeah, indeed. Let's go to the next area of discussion, Irene. Next slide. So we've just experienced some of the feelings that we have whenever we interact with the cultures and the societal practices that have been brought in and practiced over and over again. So at this point, I would want to ask, what are some of the assumptions and what are some assumptions or systems are we possibly replicating? What are some of the assumptions or systems are we possibly replicating? We may have mentioned that earlier as we had the previous conversation, but it's just good to have one or two things that we may have replicated and still taken further right here as we interact with our learning spaces.
For me, the positive part is listening more. I think that because but mostly we learn that when we join people from other spaces and other people who do things differently, you know, and as we promote equity and equitable hospitality, you know, you learn to listen more, not to speak, not to feel, not to use. People who know me, I don't like titles, so so we have learned how not to do some of those. We had to unlearn. Yes, we had to unlearn how not to do those things. So now we are trying to teach people how to unlearn them. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Right. Thanks so much, Irene. Someone else who has an additional contribution.
I would say a big assumption is that there's always a correct or an ideal something. Okay. And of course, back to what Kim was talking about, grading, right? Grading suggests if you get 100 that you have achieved perfection in some in some way. And what it does is it hurts our ability to see that everything is nuanced, that everything doesn't necessarily have just a correct answer or an even ideal answer. You know, and I think that hurts a lot of human discourse. It's part of the challenge we face now. I'm right, you're wrong, right? And so I think that, you know, believing that there is one, I don't know whether you call it binary thinking or dichotomous thinking or whatever it is, but it's this idea that there is, you know, one correct. Now, our religions pretty well follow that doctrine, quite frankly, right? Religions, by their very nature, I think, suggest that, and they have phrases like one true path to wherever it is you're going. And so I understand where it comes from. I just find it to be, I find it hurts human interaction. It hurts our ability to appreciate, no, you know, your view is different, and that doesn't make it worse. It doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it different than mine.
It's a great point, David. For me personally, I'm this Canadian thrown into a Mexican environment, so I do deal with the clash of cultures there. But I've been here for 30 years. But it's also just my idealisms and resistance to all these television programs and of there has to be a competition, there has to be a winner, you know, America's Top Chef, America's whatever, right? And we have this ingrained in our culture. And every semester we have this kind of science fair at the end where students can show the project they worked on. And we always have to have a professors go around and score them and rank them and give an award. And I say, this is ludicrous. I mean, I'm making a decision on their semester's length project that I didn't see at all until today, and I'm only going to see them for 30 seconds. This is dumb that I'm evaluating them. Why can't we just have them show it? Because it's nice to share and show, and we don't have to have a winner. And then they call me crazy because they have this feeling that someone has to win. Like there has to be this ranking and this competition. And I disagree vehemently with that take. And it kind of puts a sour feeling on the whole. Let's share this cool stuff we did this semester.
And
you know,
imagine,
Ken, sorry,
go ahead.
I'm just, you've triggered a thought
Sorry.
that I always no, because we are measured equally, but we don't learn the same way. It's like there was a picture that was being shared about an elephant, a giraffe, a snake, and something else, and they were being told to climb a tree. You know, that is the exam. Whoever reaches at the top first is the winner. It's the same way I feel our education system is. So sorry, Doreen, back to you.
Some students are really bad at taking exams and others are great at it. I was excellent at it. They got good grades, but I realized it's some students were practically vomiting when there was an exam because they got stressed out so much. So you're right. That's a good analogy.
Imagine if that happens and then someone is labeled a failure just because they were not able to perform in that project that they have been given. And yet they have learned the skill. It's just that perhaps they are not able to articulate well during the presentation. Yeah. Then we judge them and we label them, and they're not able to progress just because of some of the narrow ways that we have kept on pushing over and over the time that don't work. And at this point, I wonder why just a few people must pass and the rest do not. Because when you have in your class, a few will get distinctions A's and more in the middle, and a few again fail. I wonder why that curve must always look that way. These are some of the traditions and cultures in the space where we need to question, because some people are judged and kept out of the system, and they're not as bad. They just learn differently. Yep. And we were making fun earlier with Irene about how people learn so differently. Right. Let's now go to the next slide, and I think almost the second last. Yeah, now that we've had that experience and interpreted what any decisions we make in the learning space because of the cultures that we've had mean, what are some of the inclusive practices we can adopt to honor the cultural diversity in terms of where we have grown up and how we show up, and even our own personal differences, and disrupt exclusion in our learning environment. We are going to be doing that in the Padlet. So we're going to be sharing inclusive practices that we can adopt to honor our cultural diversity or disrupt exclusion in our learning environment. We are going to be doing that on the Padlet. The link has just been shared in our chat. And this is what I would encourage us to do as we think through. We take 2 minutes to think through and write down before we post on the Padlet. And we write as many ideas as we can around the practices, but ensure, or I would encourage that each idea should have 3 to 7 words so that it can be clear of what idea we are sharing. So let's click on the link. It will direct us to the Padlet. Take a bit of time, write somewhere different. Then you can now upload on the Padlet. You can copy paste on the Padlet. When you are done, I'll give how many minutes?
I think we can also edit. So we can also write straight into the Padlet and edit as we think through them.
Oh, fantastic.
That's also doable. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So feel free to write on the Padlet as many ideas as we can.
And then I'll only share the Padlet later. Let's first work on it, and then I can share it later. Otherwise, it will just disrupt us here and looking at the screen.
Yeah, okay.
Mia, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm writing in the Padlet.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
No,
it took me 2 seconds to get back to the voice to the button. But
no,
yeah,
that's okay.
I'm
Thank
here.
you. Okay. Okay.
I'm in the Padlet, but now I have to figure out how to get back to the Padlet, which might be hard for me, but I'll find my way. I'm on my phone, that's why. When I'm on my laptop, I'm good, but when I'm on my
you
phone,
can also
things
share
are funky.
you can also share in the chat, and I can add them to the Padlet if that's the case, yeah? But
sure.
just you can play around with your phone also a little bit.
I think I'm just gonna
you might
start,
discover something new there. Yeah.
If you see something that's like duplicated, it's probably me, but it's okay. I won't
okay.
switch out anymore.
That's okay. That's okay.
That's still fine. We're going to be giving them names later on. Let's just have the small statement. And see, someone has already gone ahead of us. Just share the idea. We are going to cluster them and then we will name the ideas as we go. Oh, thank you.
And for those watching the recording, now we'll share the screen and we'll see what everybody's been working on.
Thanks. Let's also feel free to like what another person has shared. Would also add another comment to what they have shared. Thanks so much, David. Sorry, Ken, I'm calling you David because of why. Thanks so much.
That's okay.
Ken.
New name.
For sharing this with us. Let me read what we have written. Emphasize group success more than individual achievement. I was looking at your screen. Let me look at this. Give space for unique ideas, no worries. Make sure my instructional materials represent diverse cultures. Change grading, stroke assessments. Enable anonymity to protect when helpful. Model and foster accessibility as a core practice. Encourage cultural exchange programs, not only for learners, but for staff too. Allow slow learning for more inclusion. Co-creative practices, crowdsourcing your community values or community agreements, co-creating a class playlist of music, and inviting to have student designed inspired warm-ups. Right? Design activities that take advantage of diversity, like creative problem solving. Balance instructional strategies that serve different types of learners. Accommodate all learners regardless of their backgrounds. I love what you've come up with. So I find it very creative, and given the very short time that we've had, that we've been able to come up with this many ideas. At this point, I would ask we look at the ideas that we have come up with and see if there's any patterns in the ideas that we have put across, or any that have relationship, not just because of the wordings, but how they relate because they're speaking to the same idea or action, then we put them together. Together we form like a row from top down, how they relate, and any of us could feel free to say what they feel is relating with what, and they move it to that point. Then after that, we are going to give that cluster a name.
The ideas are so diverse. Yeah, they're so diverse. Yes.
Well, I think
so
some are
diverse.
related.
Yes,
Like
they are related.
what David wrote,
Okay.
design activities that take advantage of diversity, is similar to mine of give space for unique ideas.
So
by my
we can put that
pseudo
together.
ego of bubbly zebra.
We can. You
I
can
can only
move.
move my own. I think the admins can
because
move.
I've not given you. Okay.
Irene, you're able to move everyone's, right?
Yeah, I should have given Ken
the right.
some powers. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I noticed I can move mine, but not others.
Yes. So which one were you saying?
Bubbly zebra would be somewhere.
Yeah, at
near
the top. Yes,
design
at the top.
activities.
Yeah.
There we go.
Enable anonymity to protect, or we have model and foster accessibility, and we have give space and unique ideas.
Yeah,
you find that related? If you feel they're related, then we can put them together, up, down. And it is okay for some not to be related at all. They don't have to fit in somewhere.
And I think also me as a whole, the co-creative practices are all there. You know, she has added all those, so I could move that to the top. So that's it.
Yeah.
It's probably a topic by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So
yeah,
we
fantastic.
can. I need to and things are refusing to do what they are supposed to do.
All right.
Yep. I think I need to move them differently later. But it's not doing what it's supposed to do.
It's not behaving the way you want it to behave.
The way it should, yeah.
Yeah, it's unlike a physical sticky note that you pull and push.
I know, yeah. It has come on top, so we leave it there. It's at the top now. So we leave it at the end there. Yeah.
Yes. Any other that you feel is we have anonymity, we have accessibility.
Of inclusion, I think inclusion and accessibility go together. Kinda, yes. Then we have instruction.
You could put
instructional material. Balance instructional strategies. I think those two.
Yes.
Yeah, those two go together.
Yes.
And I think the accommodate learners' backgrounds goes with unique spaces, but everything is moving, so everything is moving, so let me just leave it. Yes, but yes, back to you, Doreen. I think I'll work on them later and see if I can do that, and then share with everyone to see what they feel about the categories. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Irene. Then looking at what you've been, the many areas that you've been able to come up with, and the clusters that you have put across, is it possible to find a name? Because when we were saying, it has now disappeared again. When we were saying something about the instructional materials and strategies, and we said they look like they have a relationship and we put them together, what name would we give that, or what title would we give that? Yeah. Irene, it looks like it has also run away right now.
What's that? What has run away?
the instructional materials.
It's at the beginning. It's at the top, at the beginning. Make sure instructional material represent diverse cultures. Yes, it's at the top there.
And the other one
Then
where balanced instructional strategies has gone to the second row, the second column, but we wanted it below.
It might be because of the size of your window that you're showing, because I'm showing more columns than you're showing.
Yeah, I think our
I'm
size
seeing
might be
6
smaller,
on my screen.
Yeah. So I think that also matters. Yes, yes.
You're right.
Yeah, it's wrapping.
Because what you have projected is different from what I'm having on my end. Thanks so much for that. Yeah. Okay. So then what
we just look at the
title
instead of looking at what we are sharing. We could look at we leave this one, but we all go to, to the Padlet itself. Then it's easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So what are some of the titles that you could give this?
I think there is accessibility and inclusion already. And as I say, the co-creation,
Okay.
Yeah, we have those. Yeah.
Oh, what else are we seeing? I also see acknowledging of diversity, because when we allow slow learners, there's allowing slow learners to learn at their pace, and there's also people from different backgrounds. I think that's kind of acknowledging this diversity. Any title we may have left? Some could be very different and may not fit in, but we are not saying that they're not useful contributions.
I think there's none that is not. I think everything is actually very useful, and it's around learning environments. So everything else,
Okay. All right. So thanks so much, Irene, for that, and Ken, thanks so much for the support in sharing the Padlet. And we have just been able to quickly come up with some of the ways and practices that we can ensure that we honor diversity, and we can also minimize exclusion in our learning environment. So thanks so much. And we have used the ORID method that is borrowed from the ICA UK learning platform, I will call it so, that we were shared with a link before. So if you have any questions, we could always go and refer to it. So having gone through this experience, I would just want to ask us to share what it is that we are walking away with from the session, if there's anything. If there's anything that you are walking away with from the session, what is it? Let's feel free to share.
I do think, I love this community. I've been part of this community for a while through virtually connecting, and then into this with MYFest as well. A lot of us are very similar thinkers, and the passion for what we do. Not to say that there are educators that are not passionate, but I think it's important for us to realize that in some way this is a community with similar thoughts, and this comes out in our conversations, and how we bring that and the fight for what we think is a better experience for our communities, whether it's students or others, from what we learn together in these sessions. Because sometimes we go back to our own hallways And we're not the normal thinkers. We're fighting a culture that isn't the same as what we live in this experience that we have in MYFest and Equity Unbound or virtually connecting previous to that. We get all excited and then we go back sometimes to our own little realities.
Thanks so much, Ken, for mentioning that. Indeed, we sometimes get back to the spaces where we are always at, and feel we got to keep on challenging the status quo until people find spaces to stand on, and everyone finds a space that they can be able to fit in. Not to say that this is what we do, but create spaces for every single person to flourish, especially in our learning spaces where we have a control. Yeah, David says seeing diversity in action can be a powerful motivator for being inclusive. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I don't think preaching, quite frankly, I don't think preaching the value of diversity is nearly as powerful as seeing the value of diversity in action. And MYFest is a perfect example of that. You know, it doesn't matter what the conversation is, doesn't matter what the topic is. You get this marvelous mixture of perspectives, and all you have to do is look around on the screen and see, right? You can look at the Zoom screen and see, even if you didn't know anything about any of us, that we represent diversity, I think, at its very best, quite frankly, which is, right, creating a space where it flourishes.
And not just seeing, we can close our eyes because there's colleagues that can't see it. And you can hear it in our voices, the diversity in our voices as well.
Yeah.
Accents.
Oh, fantastic. And MYFest is creating a culture of that inclusion. And there you're seeing it in action. So people will remember there's a space where everyone matters and everyone's voice counts. And they will be able to practice that because they have seen it. And the rewriting of histories, because that's how history is made.
It's too bad we can't get, you know, we're all singing to the choir here, right?
Yeah, it is.
In terms of our beliefs, it's too bad we can't get some of the anti-DEA people, you know, to join us or come see, right, about the possibilities. Unfortunately, of course, we are such tribal creatures, right? We really are. And we know the history of how we came together and rule the planet or whatever it is. And but that tribal perspective, it's not good in the sense of it when it points out it's us versus them, right? The whole concept of othering is very sad.
I see Mia's microphone open.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I was just going to jump in at one point and say that I really feel like there's a lot of room in Equity Unbound's growth in regards to co-curricular design. And those can be small moments. So it could be like one class doing a project with another class across boundaries, across locations. And we've done this for a long time in our practices as individuals. So we'll partner up with certain people who we just are sparked by and feel connection to. But as a network, we could be like designing that support more explicitly moving forward in ways that matter for us institutionally as well. And that's an area of growth that I'm really interested in developing moving forward, you know, with all of you, with like a team, so to speak. So yeah, and it's just in the spirit of what we thought about in the last hour. So I wanted to share that.
Wonderful. And I just realized I shared the wrong link. I was sharing community agreements again. I'm sharing at the bottom of the chat here. Please share your thoughts and feedback with us on this feedback form about this session, as well as perhaps if you forgot to leave feedback on a previous session, you can easily go back and go, oh, I forgot to put some feedback on yesterday's session because I got busy and I'd like to go back in and leave feedback. We very, very much appreciate feedback from anyone who can give us their thoughts on a session, but also just MyFest in general. I'm sure it's very much appreciated what we can put in. And even those of us that are facilitating and coordinating, we have thoughts as well, and we should be sharing it, not thinking it's not for us. It's for everyone to give some feedback, please. And thank you so much, Doreen. Thank you, Irene, for sharing with us today and facilitating. Thank you for being here as well, David and Mia. It was good to see you.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Another lovely hour spent with awesome people.
Yeah.
Yeah, never a
Agreed.
waste.
Thank you.
Never a
Always a
waste.
joy.
Never a waste.
That's right. That
Thank
could be
you.
my MyFest new motto, okay?
Never a